My name is Sarah Chen. I'm 28, a software engineer, and 2 weeks ago, my mother handed me an invoice for $280,347.89. The subject line read, "Cost of raising an ungrateful daughter." I was sitting at the dining table when she slid the manila folder toward me. My parents, my brother Derek, his wife Amanda. Family dinner had just ended, plates still on the table, and suddenly my mother was serving paperwork like we were in a courtroom. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," she said. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Inside the folder was a 23-page spreadsheet, every single year of my life, from birth to 18, itemized. Food, clothing, housing, school supplies, medical bills. Then the categories got stranger. Emotional labor, lost career opportunities, personal sacrifices. I flipped through page after page, feeling a cold knot tighten in my chest. At the bottom of the final page was a number printed in bold. Total amount owed, $280,347.89. Under it, a payment plan, $2,500 per month for 8 years. For a second, I thought it was a prank. "Mom," I said slowly, "is this a joke?" She didn't smile. "Does it look like a joke?" The room went silent. My father suddenly became very interested in his water glass. Derek leaned back in his chair like he wanted to disappear. Amanda looked confused. "This," my mother said, tapping the paper, "is the cost of everything I sacrificed for you." I blinked. "You're billing me for raising me? I'm asking you to take responsibility." Something sharp twisted in my stomach. "You chose to have a child," I said quietly. "You don't get to invoice them later." My mother's expression hardened instantly. "You have no idea what I gave up for you." That's when I realized something. This wasn't about money, not really. It was about something much deeper, something she had carried for almost 3 decades. And the truth she was trying so desperately to bury was about to come out at that dinner table. Because 10 minutes later, I said something that made my mother's face go completely pale, something no one at that table expected me to know. And once I said it, before we dive in, make sure to subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories like this. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love seeing the map light up with your cities. I picked up the folder again, hands still shaking. My mother's eyes were sharp and calm, like she had rehearsed this moment 100 times. "You really think you can just sit there and laugh at this?" she said. "I'm not laughing," I said slowly. "I'm trying to understand why you think you can bill me for being your daughter. You don't understand sacrifice. I gave up everything for you. My career, my social life, my happiness, all for you. And you repay me with this life of luxury?" I couldn't stop the anger building. "Luxury? You mean my life? The life I built while you and Dad let Derek coast through everything?" Her lips tightened. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Amanda looked horrified, like she had no idea this family dinner had become a courtroom. "Don't bring Derek into this. He's grateful. He appreciates everything we've done for him." "Grateful," I said, my voice rising. "Grateful doesn't explain why nearly every family emergency you asked me to cover over the last 3 years was just for him. The laptop, the rent, the car repairs. Every time I sent money, it went straight into Derek's life, while you called me selfish for living in San Francisco." My father cleared his throat. "Sarah, maybe we can—" "Don't," I said, louder now. "No more interruptions." The tension in the room became almost physical. Plates clinked. Derek's face went red. My mother's eyes darted, just for a fraction of a second, a tiny flicker of doubt. And now, I said slowly, letting it sink in, you hand me this invoice like I owe you something more than the money I've already given, like my life isn't my own, like my success somehow makes me guilty. She opened her mouth, then shut it. The room went quiet. Even Amanda stopped breathing. I leaned forward. Before we talk about what I owe you, maybe we should talk about where all that emergency money really went. Derek swallowed hard. His jaw tightened. My mother's face paled, just slightly, and for the first time that night, I felt the scales beginning to tip, because the truth I was about to reveal next wasn't just going to embarrass them, it was going to unravel everything. I slid the folder closer to me deliberately. My mother's hands tightened into fists. Derek fidgeted under the table. Amanda stared wide-eyed. "Let's go through it," I said, calm but heavy. I opened my phone, showing screenshots, Venmo transactions, texts, emails, everything. "Here's the $800 for car repairs," I showed my mother. "Dad said it was urgent. I sent it immediately." I swiped. A picture popped up. Derek on Instagram, the same weekend, at a getaway with friends. Drinks, laughter, gaming consoles stacked on the table. "Not an emergency," I said softly, letting it sink in. My mother's lips quivered. She looked at my father. He avoided my gaze. Derek's face flushed red. "Here's the laptop I bought," I continued. "Broken, right? For work. Or so I thought. A week later, Derek posts a photo streaming games on it. That's work?" I felt anger rising, but stayed calm. "Every dollar I sent, every emergency you cried about, it went to him. Every single time." Amanda whispered, "I had no idea." "You had no idea?" I said, voice low. "Do you see now why I was called ungrateful? I was funding the life of the golden child while being told I owed gratitude for existing." My mother opened her mouth, closed it again. Derek shifted, a voyeur stare. My father finally cleared his throat, uneasy. "And yet," I said, leaning back, "you still hand me this invoice. You still act like I owe you something after 3 years of paying for someone else's life." My mother's face went pale, and for the first time, I saw her falter. I held up my phone. "If you want payment, I'll send the full amount. Just one catch." Derek froze. My mother's eyes widened. "Let's make sure this time the money actually goes where it's supposed to." No one said a word, and in that silence, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. The scales had finally started to tip, because what I was about to reveal next would leave the entire family reeling. I looked across the table at my mother and saw cracks in her expression, in the image of Derek as the perfect child and me as the problem. "You know," I began slowly, "it wasn't just the last 3 years. It started a long time ago." She stiffened. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Amanda's hands were clasped tightly. "When I wanted art classes, you gave me dollar store crayons," I said, letting it hang. "When Derek wanted piano lessons, a private instructor came. Every single time. He succeeded, you applauded. I succeeded, you ignored it." My mother's jaw tightened. "Sarah, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. I understand you picked favorites. From the moment I could speak, Derek was the investment and I was the drain." The room was silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. "High school," I continued, voice rising, "straight A's, 3 clubs, part-time job. Derek? C's, video games, nothing else. Who got the praise?" Derek squirmed, looking at his hands. My mother's eyes flicked to him, pleading, then back to me. "When I got into MIT on a full scholarship, you said, 'Boston is so far, why not a state school?'" When Derek applied with mediocre grades, suddenly there were consultants, SAT prep, and celebrations. He got into a decent state school with no scholarships. You'd think he'd won a Nobel Prize. I went anyway. Best decision of my life. For the first time, I was around people who valued achievement, who celebrated intelligence instead of resenting it. I thrived. Straight A's, research projects, awards, graduated, started a tech job at $120,000 a year. I called my parents. "That's nice, honey," my mother said flatly. "Derek needs help with his resume. Can you look at it?" I hung up, stunned. The pattern followed me across the country. Success wasn't celebrated, it was a threat. Over the next 3 years, I sent $15,000 for various emergencies, rent, car repairs, laptops, all for Derek. My achievements minimized, criticized, ignored. I noticed the subtle digs, comparisons, guilt trips. Then came Thanksgiving 6 months ago. I brought my boyfriend, Michael. Mom spent the whole weekend critiquing his salary, joking about me being the breadwinner. After we left, Michael quietly said, "Sarah, your family doesn't respect you at all." That night, I lay awake thinking about every emergency I'd funded, every achievement met with criticism. Suddenly, the invoice made sense. It wasn't about money. It was about control, resentment, punishment for being successful, independent, everything they weren't. By the time I returned to that dinner table 2 weeks ago, I had already decided I wasn't going to be a silent victim anymore. After that Thanksgiving, something inside me snapped. I had spent my life trying to earn love and approval that would never come. I had been the scapegoat, funding Derek's life while being told I was selfish. I started therapy. Dr. Lisa Wong was the first to say it aloud. "Sarah, you were the scapegoat in your family." "Scapegoat?" I asked. "It's a role families assign," she explained. "One child absorbs blame, guilt, resentment. The other becomes the golden child, praised, protected, celebrated." I thought about my life in flashes. Every birthday ignored, every award overlooked, every family emergency I funded, always for Derek. "Why me?" I asked. "Because it's not about you," she said. "It's about them. Their regrets, their missed opportunities. They projected them onto you." It hit me like a punch. The invoice, the favoritism, the guilt trips, the resentment, it all made sense. I began setting boundaries. No more blind money transfers, no more calls ending in criticism, no more guilt for pursuing my life. My mother's calls became sharper, manipulative. "Sarah, you're being selfish," she said. "No, Mom, I'm being responsible for my life. I won't fund Derek anymore. I won't be guilted. I'm done." Then 2 weeks ago, the dinner, the invoice, $280,347.89. For the first time in years, I felt clarity. This wasn't just about money. It was about exposing the truth, standing up, reclaiming my life. And the next words I spoke would leave the entire table frozen. I put the folder down like a dam about to break. My mother's eyes were sharp, defensive, a flicker of fear beneath. Derek looked pale, wanting to disappear. "Derek," I said slowly, "how much of the emergencies I covered do you think were real?" I don't know," he mumbled. I pulled out my phone, screenshots, emails, Venmo transactions, every dollar accounted for. Rent money in March, Dad said it was urgent. You were posting in Vegas the same weekend. Not an emergency. My mother's lips pressed together. Derek's face flushed red. Laptop broken? Claimed for work. You were gaming online a week later, and I'm the selfish one for living my life? I said, "You've lived at home 26 years doing the bare minimum, while I funded most of your life under family emergencies." The room was silent. Derek finally murmured, "I didn't know." I said, "You didn't know because you didn't have to. You were the golden child, protected, praised, rewarded. I was the scapegoat, silently carrying everything." My mother's hands shook. My father spoke quietly. "Sarah, she doesn't owe you anything. You've had 28 years of evidence." I leaned back. Now, the part you didn't expect, the part showing who's been truthful and who's been lying for decades. I looked at my mother, Helen, and finally saw her as a human weighed down by secrets. "You've been holding resentment for me," I said slowly. "This invoice, the favoritism, the comparisons, it wasn't about me. It was about what you lost, what you never forgave yourself for." Her face went pale. Derek's eyes widened. Amanda gasped. Father's hand trembled. "You... what?" my mother whispered. I said, "You resented me because I represented what you gave up. Your dreams, your career, your life at 24, all changed because of me." Her confident, controlling facade vanished. I never hated you," she whispered. "Really? Because 28 years of action said otherwise," I replied. Derek slumped. Father finally acknowledged the truth. "This isn't Sarah. It's about us, our choices, our regrets." I reached into my bag. "Since we're sharing truths, see my side of the story too." Their faces went white. The power shifted. The scales were tipping. I slid my own folder across the table. "This is my counter-invoice," I said, calm but firm. Inside, every dollar cent, every false emergency, emotional labor, therapy costs, nights spent crying alone, favoritism documented. $15,000 sent over 3 years. Emotional damages for 28 years, $500,000. Therapy, $15,000 and counting. "You wouldn't," my mother whispered. "I would. I'm done being manipulated, done funding Derek, done being told I owe my existence as gratitude for your regrets." Derek stayed frozen. Amanda trembled. Father looked at me. Really looked. "This folder isn't just numbers," I said. "It's the truth." "Mom," I said slowly, "do you know what I finally understand?" She shook her head slightly, panic flickering. "You hated me. Not who I am, but what I represent. Everything you lost before I was born." Her lips trembled. "Sarah, No. You resented me for your lost life, your choices. I didn't choose to exist, but you blamed me for your regrets. You treated me as the drain while Derek thrived. 28 years later, you hand me this invoice. Do you see why? Because you never forgave yourself." Her face went pale. Tears formed. I never wanted..." "You did," I said softly. "You resented me instead of celebrating me." Father finally spoke. "Helen, she's right. It's about us, our regrets." Truth hung in the air, heavy, undeniable. I didn't need to argue. I had won. The truth was out. I let the folder slide across the table. This is everything I endured. Money sent under false pretenses, emotional scars, therapy, favoritism, and double standards. My counter-invoice. My mother's hands trembled. Derek froze. Father swallowed hard. "You wouldn't dare," my mother whispered. "I would, and I'm done. Done funding Derek, done feeling guilty. This is non-negotiable." "You didn't know." "Of course not. You were the golden child, protected, praised, rewarded. I was the problem." Father finally said firmly, "Sarah doesn't owe you anything." I stood, gathered my things. Don't contact me. Don't ask for money. Don't guilt me. I only regret not doing this 10 years ago. I walked out. The room was silent, and for the first time, I knew I owed them nothing. Outside, the cool evening air hit my face like freedom. 28 years of expectations, resentment, and control, all gone. My mother called endlessly. I blocked them. Derek called once. Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Amanda reached out separately. She didn't know. I forgave silently, but didn't reopen the door. Father emailed, Sarah, I understand. You never owed us anything. I'm proud of you. I cried. In the months that followed, I built a life without them. Promotions, friends who celebrated me, dating someone who valued my ambition and intelligence. Derek and Amanda moved out. Watching that dinner had been their wake-up call. Months later, my mother messaged, I've been in therapy, trying to understand. I didn't respond. Maybe someday. I learned I don't have to earn love. My worth isn't measured by what I provide. Family isn't an excuse for abuse. The invoice, the favoritism, the resentment, gone. What mattered now was the life I chose, the people I surround myself with, and the love I give myself. I owed myself. And finally, I was free.